Welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today we're going to be talking about my top 19 favorite metallic colored eyeshadows. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In the past year, I have been doing a video once a month where I pick a certain color family and I show you all my favorite shades from both my palettes as well as from my singles collection. And I thought that right in time for the festive season, I could share with you my favorite metallic looking shades. So this is not metallic finish shades because I have many more than just these 19. It's really things that look like a metal. So golds, silvers, pewters, rose golds. Those are the kind of shades I'm talking about in today's video. In case you're new here and you've never seen one of my videos, let me introduce myself. My name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone. I'm a teacher in my day-to-day life, but I have been reviewing makeup for more than a decade. I love chatting about eyeshadow palettes, accessories, and getting the use out of my makeup. So if that's what you're here for as well, then I hope you'd like to consider subscribing. So first things first, before we get to these 10 palettes and 9 singles that I have selected for you, in this video I will also be showing you some close-ups as well as do some live swatches, and I'll be inserting those as I'm chatting about these topics. But before we get to the video, I do want to also point out that I'm still hosting a current giveaway which is still running until the 15th of January, so I'll make sure to link that in the description box down below in case you haven't entered yet. It is to celebrate 10K subscribers over on this channel, which I'm super chuffed with. However, some people have been sort of taking advantage of it because there was a spam account that was leaving comments on people's comments on that video, which I very quickly manually had to delete, but then some people have been contacting me saying they have been contacted via their email address. You haven't. That's because you have switched on your YouTube notifications to be sent to your email. And that's why you've received an email. The email is from YouTube, it's not from me, and it's not from my Floating in Dreams email account. So that's how you can check, that's how you can know. But I did delete all of those comments already and I reported them as spam, so hopefully it doesn't happen again. However, I think if I report it as spam, then the person who's received the comment can still see it, which is why I chose to delete everything. So if you did get that message or notification, then just know that that was a spam account. I will be sending you an email from my Floating in Dreams email account if you are the winner, just so you know. And it's not going to happen until sometime in January, just so you know. So let me get to these metallic / metals, you could say, eyeshadows. The reason why I chose to stick to metals and not to like my favorite metallic finish shades is because metallics are some of my favorite shades in every palette I have. So if I just go for metallic finish shadows, I could start a whole new series, you could say. So that's why I'm sticking to your golds, your silvers, and just things that are pure metal focused. Now, I think that when it comes to metallic shades, I think a gold is a quite standard shade that we find in a lot of palettes and that a lot of people also seem to love. I personally am not a lover of gold eyeshadow. I only like very particular golds. I figured out my sweater has these little holes, so I wanted to wear it properly. But yeah, we have very many different shades of gold out there, and a lot of them tend to be very yellow leaning, which is never my favorite. So, in terms of a good gold eyeshadow, I only like it if they have this olivey sort of dirty antique gold kind of vibe to them. What do I mean by that? I mean golds that have a green flip or a green undertone. These like tarnished golds I do very much like on myself because they pair really well with blues, greens, and with a lot of neutral shades. However, since I have a cooler undertone and most golds tend to be very heavily yellow leaning, I feel they are always a little bit stark against my skin tone, and I never like that look. However, it's a really great shade if you have anything deeper skin than mine, and of course if you have a warm undertone. So that's why I'm kicking things off. I think one of my favorite all-time golds is in the Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse. And this palette, when I was looking for shades that I could feature in this video, I now figured out has all the metallic shades you could want. It has a pewter kind of shade, charcoal pewter-ish like. It has a really nice actual silver. It has something that's more like a tarnished silver, more like a, well, I wouldn't call it platinum. It's not bright enough for it to be platinum. But then it does have a really nice gold, and it even has a bronzy shade. But we're talking about the gold in this. We all know that warm tones are not necessarily my jam, but as far as this palette goes, I really like how we get a mix of both warm and cool tones in this. The blue row is my favorite, together with this like taupey shimmer thing. We get a full row of mattes where really only this shade I like, because we get quite a lot of warmth in that row, but it pairs really nicely with some of the shimmers that we have going on here. And this gold has been one of my favorites in my entire makeup collection for years, because it is a dirty gold. It has this grungy undertone to it that makes it a little less vibrant, and I just think it works really well for that reason, which is why the Lunar Beauty gold shade, it's called Gold Dust in the palette, is one of my favorite golds that I own. But just recently, and I haven't played with this palette yet because I was still playing around with this palette, but I will be playing with this palette really soon. I hope to be doing a look with this tomorrow when I will be filming some more videos so you can do the look with this. But it's my Lisa Eldridge Sorcery palette, and I bought this because A, it's pretty much an all shimmer palette. We only have this teal that is a matte. And then we just have some really interesting duochromes and like taupery shades and also like greens and blues. It's really stunning. But it also has this gold shade. It is called Troubadour, if I'm not mistaken. No. I think the name on the back is actually the opposite of what it is located. It's Madrigal. That's what this shade is called. And the reason why I'm also saying this is because the Lisa Eldridge shades are available as singles. So if you just want to get one of these and you just want to get the gold because you love it, that's going to work. So this is what I mean with a green tone gold. This has that tarnished green antique gold that I just love. I just recently saw Lisa Eldridge do a tutorial with this palette on a model, calling it a dirty martini look. And I think I want to do like my version of that, of that look when I play with this tomorrow. This shade is absolutely stunning, and I really want to play with it very soon. But yeah, I'm gonna hold it off. I'm gonna save for tomorrow, but that gold swatches beautifully, and it's exactly my kind of gold. Then if we go one tier lower, if you are talking about medals that you can win in the Olympics, for instance, we have silvers. Now, I'm a very picky silver lover because I find most silvers to just be a little bit flat. I'm actually wearing a bit of silver on my eyes today. I know the lip is incredibly crazy, but I was like, I'm wearing a red top. I couldn't really figure out what lipstick to go with, and I was like, you know what? I'll just do a blue lip. And then I topped it off with a Kaleidos multi-chrome highlighter for the fun of it, because if we're going crazy, we might as well just amp it up a notch. This is not what I wear every single day if this is your first time viewing my channel, but I just felt like having fun today. Why not? But yeah, silvers I just don't tend to love because they always seem to do the same thing. And I find that silvers can be very difficult to blend into other shades because they never seem to have the right undertone. However, the shimmer, the silver that we have in the Kaleidos Cyber Bronze, which has been discontinued sadly, has been one of my favorites for the longest time. So in terms, like as far as a silver goes, it doesn't really get any better than this, I find, because this is like, it's still vibrant. It still has the vibrancy that a silver shimmer will have, but it is not necessarily too stark that it overpowers everything that the look has to offer, which is the issue I sometimes have with silvers. However, we also know that I love my smoke and mirrors, and like with the Lunar Beauty, I could have featured several shades from this palette in several of the categories I'm chatting about, but I decided to pick it for the silver because this is like, if we're thinking like tarnished golds and those being my favorite, then this is like the tarnished silver that is one of my favorite. It is a silver, but the Kaleidos one is more like your classic, very stark silver, whereas this one again has this almost dirty undertone to it that I just really enjoy. So I like that. However, this really dark gray shimmer is really nice, and I love this bronze in here because it is a cooler tone bronze. However, I've got a different bronze pick for you in a minute. Yeah, it's really about the silver that is in here. I think it's gorgeous. Now, not a metal shade we find in terms of medals you can win in a sporting event, but one of my favorite metallic shades is a rose gold. And this goes way, way, way back. Like, back in the day, before I really discovered how good I look in taupe and teal, rose gold was the shade I gravitated towards, which is why I have this here. Now, my Naked 2 does contain some shades from Naked 3, and the shade I'm going to be talking about is from that Naked 3 palette. So let me open it. It's this shade right here, and it's the shade Trick that you'll find in the original Naked 3. I just jumbled mine together to get more use out of my favorite shades from both palettes, and they were old anyways. My goal was to try and hit pan on some of this, but I didn't manage. But the palette as it is, I really like. But yeah, Trick was one of my favorite shades for years. It's why it has quite a big dent. YDK is really lovely as well. That's another rose gold shade, but it's more of like a taupe with a rose gold undertone. I feel that Trick is truer when it comes to being a rose gold. Like, it's like Trick and YDK are shades that have like the similar kind of color to it, but they have different undertones. So Trick is a little warmer toned, a little bit more pink leaning, whereas YDK goes a little bit more towards the gray tones, you could say. It has a slightly less warmer undertone, I find. But yeah, we're talking about Trick in this one because I feel it is just like a typical rose gold shade. Like, I wore it back in the day, like 2014, 2015 me. Loved a rose gold. Then we have this palette from Temptalia and Sydney Grace. This is Radiant Reflection, and in here they have Phosphenes, which is this one, and it's sort of like almost like a lilac-y kind of shades. Like, this looks a lot like YDK, which is why I'm not swatching both of those, because I feel this kind of covers that vibe. But these kind of like softer, more muted rose golds I really enjoy as well, and this is more the kind of rose gold I go for nowadays. So YDK is like my current favorite shade by Urban Decay in that palette, but Trick used to be like up there for sure. So yeah, this formula is incredibly stunning. The Sydney Grace formula is one of my absolute favorites when it comes to indie brands, which is why I did a dedicated video about it last Thursday. So if you want to know about all of my favorite singles from Sydney Grace, you can watch that video, and I have a couple of their palettes, and this one is just incredibly stunning as well. So, of course, when it comes to metallics, there are some warmer shades, and for a copper kind of shade, I instantly have to think of one of my favorite shimmers by Zoeva. It's in the Caramel Melange. This palette was discontinued, but it's the shade Liquid Center, and it's like that penny copper kind of shade that you find if you have a coin. It's very much that kind of shade, I feel. Very intense, very vibrant, and it doesn't get any better than this. I have other coppers and more like berry leaning shades as well that have more red in it, but I feel that this is more like that true penny color, and I'm not gonna lie, the reason I still own that palette is that shade, so it had to get a mention here. I promised you I would talk about a bronze, but as I just mentioned, bronzes are not usually my favorite. It's one of the reasons why I never really got the hang of something like the original Naked palette by Urban Decay, because it was so bronze leaning, and I just wasn't a fan of bronze on myself. And for years we got all these bronzy warm tone browns. Typically bronzes seem to be a brown with like a gold shimmer reflect in the makeup industry for the most part, but I really enjoy the bronzy gold shade we get in the Fall in Colors from Catrice. This is currently back in stock, and if you want to win this palette is in that giveaway I was promoting at the start of the video. So this bronzy gold here is absolutely amazing. This palette has some amazing metallic shimmer finish shadows to begin with, but this one, in terms of like a true metallic shade, is one just really that stands out to me. It's really, really pretty. It's, again, sort of fits within that dirty gold kind of category, but I feel this has too much brown in it for it to be a true gold. Therefore, I would categorize it a bit more like a bronze, but yeah, bronze is not my favorite, which is why there's only one here. I almost put in a bronze brown that I have from Persona, But then I wanted to make sure I put in this Lisa Eldridge thing, and that's why I cut it. But the Persona Identity 1 palette has a really pretty bronze that has this reddish undertone that is really lovely as well. And finally, we need to talk pewter kind of shades. So I think that within makeup, I tend to I just gravitate a little bit more to these darker, grungier shades. So a taupe for me is far more perfect than a true silver is. But we do get a really stunning, more like dark gray silver leading shade, which I would categorize as a pewter in this Nabla Cutie palette. This is the Platinum. And this, again, like the Lunar Beauty, has a gold, it's got like silvers, a pewter, and then also this coppery leaning shade. So in terms of like all of the metal shades being like present in one palette, this is another one that ticks that box. And I didn't realize it until I selected it for this video. But yeah, I'm talking about this shade. It's my favorite shade in this entire palette. It's not a taupe because it doesn't have enough brown. It's definitely like a darker silver, but it's not like a gray tone silver where it's like more charcoal leaning. It's definitely more going towards a pewter level, I find. It's definitely like if a silver were a deep shade, you could say. So that's why I do really enjoy that shade. It's really, really pretty, and quite possibly the reason why I keep this palette around. And finally, from the palettes, I have the Minka palette from Adept. Now, a lot of you know that I wasn't a huge fan of this when I tried it. I'm not sure, did I try it this year? I think I did. I think I tried it in 2023, and this might actually make it in my worst products I tried in 2023. Not because I don't like it. It's a stunning palette. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's just an incredibly flaky formula that I feel isn't great for blending all over your lids, and if you want to use more than one of these shimmers, it ends up looking very much the same on your lids. That's the only reason why I don't love this as much as everybody else does. However, it has really stunning shimmers, and they're very high shine metallic. And again, you got a yellow tone gold, you get your bronze, like you get an actual like silver platinum leaning shade in here. It's really stunning. But the shade I want to chat about is this one here. It's called Ava, and it's just the most stunning pewter leaning, dirty, almost like a green tone silver. It's like if you made the Lisa Eldridge Madrigal shade and you turned it into like a silvery kind of leaning shade, you get this. It has a really nice undertone, very vibrant, really intense, and to me it would fall more into the pewter category. So I do like these shades individually. I don't like them together as a palette, if that makes sense. And finally, I'm going to whiz through this part of the video because I went into my singles collection as well, as I also do for this video. And something told me that I would find some of my best, most favorite metallic shades in my singles collection. I just knew I did. So I built myself a little 9-pan here in this Z palette where I've just selected some things. So do I still remember what all of these things are? I think I do for the most part. So here we have those 9 pans. I have some like silvery things in here, some taupey leaning things, and then we have those warmer tones like the coppery bronze things at the bottom. Right here at the top, we have Terra Moon's Carbon. This is a stunning shade. This is a very wet formula though. It's very similar to the ones in the Minka palette from Adept, I find. And I have this shade and an even deeper shade by them, and they are really, really stunning on the eyes. They do have a very different way of the shadow being bound together though. So when I had these for a while, they like fell out the pan, which was not great, but I was able to press them back in and it was absolutely fine. But yeah, these are more like poured into the pan, I think, rather than pressed, which is why they fell out after they had gotten a little drier. Then I have a Glam Shop shade in here. This is Tombak, which I think is a little bit more like taupey, pewter leaning as well, but I really love it. But what you'll find with indie brands is that they do really nice shades where they sort of fuse silver and golds together. This is Luxie Beauty's Starboy, and it does just that. It's like a silvery base, but then it has gold reflex to it. That's sort of how it reads to me, but it's like in certain lights it looks more silver, in certain lights it looks more gold, and it's definitely one of the more special shades in my collection. Then we have a True Silver, and as far as if I still remember correctly, because this doesn't have a name written on it, this is my old school Catrice eyeshadow that I repressed into a round pan because it came into a square pan. And I still wanted to have the shade, but I decided to press it into a round pan so it would more easily fit with the rest of my shadows because it was a very awkward shape. But this has been always been one of my favorite silvers I've ever owned. It's not too stark, it has a really amazing payoff, and it's not super duper like metallic, but it's still a really nice metal colored shade. Oh yeah, this is Elixir from Cliona. Cliona doesn't just do multi-chromes in the little square pans, or rectangular pans I should say. They also have round pans and they do some really stunning shimmers, but they don't really seem to be restocking them though, which is a bit of a shame. And Elixir is a little bit like the other, like the flipped around version of something like Starboy by Luxie. This looks more gold in the pan, and then it has a more cool tone, silvery kind of flash. It again has that sort of blend of a silver and a gold, whereas I feel this is more blue tone, like more warm tone leading, and Starboy I feel is more cool tone leading. So they're sort of like two sides of the same coin, you could say, but slightly different. This is Tiara by Sydney Grace. I feature that in my favorite Sydney Grace video because this is outstanding. It's incredibly intense. It is a bit more of a taupe, so I'm cheating with this one, but it's such a good metallic shade that I had to put it in here. And then we have our warm tones here. So we have two shades from Makeup Geek. Rest in peace. I know they just do makeup courses now, it seems, but Flamethrower. I mean, I threw out so many of my warm tone singles because I was never using them, save for a couple of my Makeup Geek ones, because this is absolutely gorgeous. So Flamethrower by Makeup Geek, lovely. In terms of like a rose gold shade, I've always kept Grandstand around because I love it for the same reason that I like Flamethrower so much. These are incredibly intense, very metallic shadows. And this, I think Makeup Geek with these shades, when these were released, really made that indie eyeshadow really became this metallic high shine kind of formula. That's when this started to happen, I feel. And finally, another Sydney Gray shade. This was in this year's mystery bag for me. It's the shade Butter Cake, and I feel it's a really perfectly bronzy golden tone, you could say. So it could be a bit more golden toned, but then it has a bit of that brown undertone that I told you about that a lot of bronzes have. So this is a little bit more cool tone leaning as well, which I do really enjoy. It's more like neutral rather than super warm like some bronzes can get. Like, it's not like as reddish toned as some of these things are. So yeah, those were the singles I wanted to show you in this video. Those are all the metallic shades that I wanted to share with you right in time for the festive season. So maybe if you have some of these lying about, if you want some sparkle in your life, then these shades can help you out. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I have 4 videos a week that come out on this channel, so if you'd like to consider subscribing, thumbs this video up in the meantime, because that would greatly help out the channel. And for now, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!